Well, hello, we're on the return trip. Just going home for lunch. Don't know how long this camera will last for, but one of the things I've noticed is it's not got a very long battery life when you're using the camera. Probably about 40 minutes or so when the camera is recording, and that's about it. And it's the Sena 10C Pro that I'm using, and the reason I'm using it, ooh, is that a policeman? No, is because it's got full comms in it, and it's got the camera on it, and it's got radio as well, and I can connect it to the GPS on my phone, which goes here if I'm using GPS, and or it goes in my pocket if I'm actually in Paris, because I don't want distracting in Paris, so I just listen to it. And that's that. But I say the storm went through last night. It wasn't as windy as I expected. Ooh, somebody vaping, and it stinks like bubble gum. It does. Oh dear, little old lady. Not to worry. Not to worry. Yes, that vape stinks like bubblegum. Anyhow, the storm went through. It's a little bit breezy this morning. Well, it's now after 12, but I haven't eaten lunch yet, so technically it's still morning. Bike shops are closed. It's a Monday, so the scooter shop is open. Virtually all motorcycle shops in France are closed on a Monday, so if you're coming to France on holiday on the motorcycle and something happens to your motorcycle on the Sunday, the chances of you getting it repaired, if it needs to go into a shop before a Tuesday, are very, very slim. So carry spares. If you have a puncture, make sure you've got something to be able to deal with that puncture and get you somewhere else. I carry a little electric pump on both bikes. It's a battery operated pump. Ooh, that wind here is you might see the bike is moving about. Battery operated pump, which is actually very good. It'll inflate the tyres 3 times. Don't ask me how I know this. I've had to use it. And I have a thing that you can actually put into the tyre. It's got a brass end to it, and it pushes into the tyre, and then it has a sticky piece that fills the hole, and the brass end remains inside the tyre. It is a bit windy. I'm getting blown about a little bit here. The brass end stays inside the tyre. It doesn't seem to affect the balance. So it's a take on the gummy worm but it's thinner than a gummy worm. You can use 2 if necessary, if you've got a big hole. So you can use 2, and it works very well. It's easier to use than a gummy worm. I do actually have gummy worms, but I was expecting him to do that. He's not paying attention, or he's paying attention to his phone and not to his driving. So pulled out without looking from the parking place, and then wasn't paying attention to traffic. We get a lot of that, unfortunately. A chappie on a electric scooter, they call them trottinettes in France, and I was doing about 45, so he's got to have been doing about 50, which is oh, they've changed the sequencing on this light. He is actually legally allowed to jump the lights, provided he doesn't have an accident. He is legally allowed to jump them. So it's if he has an accident, then it's his fault, but that's bicycles are allowed to do the same thing. They're allowed to jump the lights, provided they don't cause an accident. But they seem to think that that means that they can jump the lights and everybody has to stop. So, unfortunately, quite a few do get badly injured and killed in and around Paris for not riding correctly. But I suppose you could call it Darwinian selection. The French seem to believe quite a lot in Darwinian selection. It is a bit windy, actually. I'm having to put both feet down. Excuse me. And the bike is getting blown a little bit. I can feel it. Come on, girls. You can make it. Anyhow, talking about the storm, it was quite bad on the coast, but it seems in and around the Paris area there's very little damage on the road, and the trees seem to have survived, and so on. Not many branches lying on the road. It's a bit windy here. It certainly is. I don't know where the wind is coming from. Just made those lights. So you can see the rules about pedestrian crossings are a little bit different in France. Once on the pedestrian crossing, the pedestrian does have right of way, and you are in a lot of trouble if you are caught. But if they're approaching the pedestrian crossing, then you don't have to stop. And in fact, most people don't even stop when they're on the pedestrian crossing. Getting back to the Sena 10C Pro, which I'm using, I need to be able to listen to the GPS, the sat-nav, and the lights are still not working at the clinic. Oh, I made an appointment, so I've made an appointment for my X-ray, which I was talking about on Friday. I have to go there for an X-ray. It's actually in 2 weeks' time, but that's my fault, not the hospital's fault. It's trying to find a time when I'm free, rather than... and the hospital's free at the same time for the scan. I could have gone this week, but I wasn't available, unfortunately, at the times that the scanner or the X-ray machine was available. So we're going next week. So that's priority Duat in operation there. Me having to let that smart car through. It's the rule. So you have to make sure that even though I have priority here, because you can't actually see until it's too late, I don't have priority here, but I do have priority here. Most bizarre. I know it sounds crazy. So it's now 20 past 12. It's time for my lunch. I'll try and recharge the battery in the camera, but it won't get a full charge during lunch, because it'll only get about an hour, and it needs a 3 hour for a full charge. But what I'll also do is that pedestrian crossing there was controlled by the lights. I'll let Charlie go through. Anyhow, I'm at home, so I won't let Charlie go through. And we'll see you after lunch.